Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nightlight. My name is Tom Snarski, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our 27th Nightlight Poetry Reading event. This November marks 2 years of Nightlight poetry readings. That means 2 years of poets sharing their awesome work with us, sharing new shit at the bleeding edge of their practice, and us celebrating in the Zoom chat, people watching the recordings on YouTube and letting me know how awesome they think all the poets are. It's just 2 years of really heartwarming, lovely poetry stuff that's been a real privilege for me to be a part of. And this evening is no exception. I could not be happier to be celebrating this milestone with such a wonderful group of readers. Tonight we have for you the poetic stylings of Donna Vorreyer, J.L. Moultrie, Maya Weeks, and Thomas Kneeland. In case you haven't listened in before, Nightlight is a reading series featuring poets and writers in a monthly Zoom, usually on the third Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're on social media at Nightlight Poems on Twitter and night_light_poems_ on Instagram, where we hype up our readings and also post recordings of the events when they go up on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on there right now, thank you for doing that. That's plenty about the series. So I'd love to cut right to the chase and get into some poems. So I'm really excited to begin tonight's reading by welcoming to Nightlight Donna Vorreyer. Donna Vorreyer is the author of Unrivered 2025 and three other collections from Sundress Publications. She hosts a reading series, 100 Pictures of Honey, and is a co-founder and editor of the new journal Astrales, a journal of arts and letters. Donna, thank you so much for being here, and I'm really excited to hear what you're going to read.
Thank you, Tom, for having me, and congratulations on 2 years of the series. I know that it's not always easy to do something like that. I'm going to read to you mostly tonight from my new book, Unrivered, which came out about a month ago from Sundress, and then I will, at Tom's request, throw some new shit in toward the end. Um, so I'm just going to get started. I don't. The book overall is about aging and how grief and time and biology, what they take from you, and then how you reimagine and put yourself back together. So that's kind of the overall thrust of the book. But here we go. The first poem is the first poem from the collection, and the title is also the first line. So I'll just go right into it. Everything is terrible, and yet the fields are full of seed and sprouts and leaves and rain. I wear this irksome suit of flesh, and yet the fields are scented, sweet with dirt and singing. I watch my days fall and die like embers, and yet the fields are tangled with grasses and asters. I smile, a cruel curve, a drawn bow, and yet the fields are recycling the soft wreckage of harvest. I hate like a god hates when it is forgotten, and yet the fields are still in love with green. We'll go from the fields to the orchard. Sorry, I wrote the page numbers down. Here we go. This is called Orchard After Storm, and there are a few lines in the poem that are taken from Edna St. Vincent Millay, who I got re-obsessed with during the pandemic. Orchard After Storm. Bark streaked black by last night's fury, the trees hang heavy with yield, leaves dripping in syncopated rhythm. I reach for a pear, its yellow slick and sinister, bittersweet, but I pull back and leave it on the branch, remembering the poet said he who would eat of love must eat it where it hangs. I walk the broken wall alone, smell the smoke of brushwood still too damp to catch. Fallen unripe harvest like stones beneath my feet, first casualties of the sky's unrest, and I see so clearly how my life must run. The griefs that will repeat, the bloom and fall, the ruined remains. And now the kiss of rain again, its mist full of ghosts. You are not here, not by my side, nor in the smoke, nor in the gloom. I reach again to pluck a pear. Far and wide, ladders lean among the fruit. The book is organized around a heroic sonnet crown because I'm insane. Um, and since Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein just came out, two of the sonnets actually kind of reference. Frankenstein's a monster, so I'm going to just read the fifth and sixth sonnets in the crown. So they're just called five and six. So five. In all my callous and misbegotten trials, age and its claws wound deep. Its murmurs and coyote howls, its shin knives, its miles of walks and therapies, ice packs, warmers, razor blades hidden in the bending. Some say this change can be managed by choice. Whole food, essential oils, a sure remedy, but decay cannot be halted, only camouflaged. Good blood for bad, scabs and sores that will not heal, a chorus of reasons to hate mornings, my imperfect DNA. The flesh flakes, congeals. I am altered, becoming othered, morphing. I shy away from crowds, toward isolation, make myself a monster of my own creation. 6. I make a monster of my own creation, stitched with sin and dug from dark backyards where skunks bellow and scratch. Aberration, a name we share. Shunned, a status we guard. Bring torches, bring pitchforks. We will not fear your judgment, your jeers, or your fists. I stock the cellar, feed it cheese, crackers, beer, the basics to make it strong. I insist that it take my name. I feed it hate and lies. Prepare it for a world where pretty faces serve as the only true currencies for women. We don't need your pity to survive. We may be branded and reviled, but we are built to withstand this new minted wild. The next poem I'm going to read is a prose poem. I was actually staying at a goat farm with a friend on a little writing retreat. So if you're wondering why goats made their way into this poem, that is why. This is called The Sacrifice. The herd of goats whispers, "We're tired of the snow." I whisper back, "I know," scratch between their curved horns. Four of them chew hay, three jostle for feed, and one is on the milking table, udders full and bleeding when a great boom sounds against the door. The youth brigade stomps forth in heavy boots, brandishing chains and curses, expressions that age knows by heart. I can no longer hide. I hold out my hands for shackles, and they march me into the trees, the crone in their midst, a villain from a fairy tale. If this were true, I could conjure some magic to escape. But stories are only stories, which the brigade doesn't know. So I am forced down into the cold river, made to gather stones as I grow numb until I am heavy enough to sink. The sun blinks through the branches, the cries of the goats riding the thick air. I close my eyes. How light my eyelids feel, my hair, as I'm swept beneath the current. The brigade ignores me. They will still ignore me when my bones return, will never acknowledge my haunting as they look in the mirror at their own aging faces. But the goats will know. They will butt their horns against the doors of their stalls. They will heel to the sound of my rattling. I think this might be a time to throw in some new shit. This is literally new shit, like I wrote it a week ago. So I have no idea if it works. So here we go, friends. Um, this is called The Cost of Living. Your underwear is inside out, which makes no difference since it's the same fabric and no one can tell, but still. You're sitting at the gate and everything is listed as on time and the aircraft is waiting outside, but still. You haven't talked to your kid in a while, though your kid is a 32-year-old man with his own life and responsibilities, but still. And what happened to that coyote limping across the dark yard, that woman in line with the smeared mascara? And what might happen when that man sits right next to you in an empty coffee shop, when the car makes a strange noise when you turn the wheel? And what are you imagining when the storm is bad and your husband is driving home? Your friend and your other friend and your other friend and your other friend needs a biopsy. But still, you give that woman a smile. You give that man the slip. You celebrate results with tears or emojis. You get on a plane with your underwear inside out and fly straight to your son's door. Hopefully that's working. All right. A few more from the book. Um, I'm going to read one of my favorites. It's very short, except I wasn't planning to read it, so I'm going to just take me a second to find it. Um, I was writing a bunch of poems that were like focusing on different ages, and a lot of them didn't work, but this one I really like, and I think it did. And it's called Sometimes I Want to Go Back to My 20s. A swirl of caramel on the tongue, sweet and sticky and supple young crocus petals shoving through snow without apology. I know. Flowers repping youth is so cliche. Same with a chrysalis or a new day, but swear to God that's how it was. A fire, a fledgling drunken buzz, a motion leaping from the nest toward any shiny wreck. Fuck rest. A slow burn, long fused dynamite, some jeweled life unlived, a right I claimed as mine. I used the world, like oysters use their grit, to pearl. Trying to watch my time here. I'm just going to read two more, I think. This poem is called This is the Story. A fox at midnight, vines of moonflowers creamy in the low glow of their namesake, night blooming morning glory. Ipomea alba. But a lovely moment explained loses its magic. The fleshy droop of a cherry is not delicious on its own. So much trouble to remove the stone, the hands stained scarlet. Some things need to be sugared soft enough to swallow. At the shore, messages written in the sand disappear. Write, stay. Write, I miss you, and the surf erases it. Move back. Repeat on a drier canvas. Language need not be permanent to be true. Better with faces than with names, better with words than numbers. My reward is stories and forgetting. Better with blankets than mirrors. Under the blankets, some forgetting hurts less. This is the story. A woman went to the ocean. The air was thick and misty, and she swallowed it, greedy for sweetness. The hourglass continued its slow sieve to stillness, time, a stone, and a cherry. This is the story. The woman was alone. She thought she heard the wind whisper, stay. Then a rustle behind her, a fox in the reeds, a little magic beneath a crescent moon. And I have a rule when I read that I like to end on joy. So that's where we're going to end. And I also want to shout out Patricia Smith for her National Book Award win last night because I was really blessed that she blurbed this book, and I feel so honored that she did. So if you haven't read her new and collected Intentions of Thunder, buy it now. This last, thank you so much for having me, Tom. Thank you everyone for listening. This last poem is called Blink. A blur of movement where it doesn't belong. A white flower in the window's darkening eye. A plastic bag, I think, caught in an updraft. Or a bit of the dying yucca's autumn fluff. But I discover it is a hawk, all muscled, breast and feathered intent, settling to perch in the tree outside my window. To survey the yard, then fly again, gone as quickly as it came, the same way joy arrives, without warning, sometimes unrecognizable, never promising to stay. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Donna, for that beautiful, beautiful beginning. Bubbles has joined me to listen in, and he is rapt as we all were. The chat was blowing up. Donna setting the bar high with some beautiful book work from her book Unrivered, but also new shit, which is exciting, and I'm excited for any and all new shit we hear tonight. That again was Donna Vorreyer, who you can find on social media on X at DJ Voyeur, which is Vorreyer, on Blue Sky at djvoyeur.bsky.social, and on Instagram at DJV50. Unrivered is again Donna's new book from Sundress Publications, and Donna is editing Astralis, a journal just finishing their first year, and the host of 100 Pictures of Honey online reading series. So you can check that out if you want to hear some more awesome poetry readings, and if you want to find Donna's work and keep up with Donna, also you can check out her website, which is donnavoyeur.com. Magnificent start to get things rolling, and I am really, really excited. Oh yeah, I just saw in the chat, Astralis is open until December 15th. So if you're listening quickly, you have time, and you should send them beautiful, beautiful stuff. Yeah, so I'm so excited to continue this beautiful role of excellent poetry by welcoming somebody whose work I've been admiring for a while on the poetry internet, who I'm so glad to be here. I also want to shout out because podcasts are also a really important part of the poetry ecosystem. And Donna was recently on Han Vanderhart's amazing Of Poetry podcast. JL Moultrie, our next reader, was on Lo-Fi Lit, which is a really lovely podcast and what was a really lovely conversation. And JL is just a wonderful poet who I'm so glad to welcome to Nightlight. JL Moultrie is a Detroiter and communicates his craft through words. He hasn't been the same since encountering Sylvia Plath, Patti Smith, and Hart Crane. He considers himself a postmodern abstract imagist, and he is here to share his work right now. JL, thanks for joining us tonight. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Can everybody hear me good? Am I good? Oh, good. And that was beautiful, Donna. Great work. That was really amazing stuff. Hope I can live up to go in a second, but hold on. Here we go. I'm going to be reading my first piece was published in Apocalypse Confidential. It's a poem and it's called Amor Fati or Anti-Manifesto. The sea was once an idea, a life and time lapse, feelings held captive, others I couldn't bypass. My face was let go of long ago, lied as a kid, runaway imagination. The places I've lived would lead some to defenestration. Each instance of laughter was a mask, half brocade, half satin. I remain nomadic, immersed in abbreviation, likely dying dozens of ways, if not for fate's intervention. Used tallies to mark time, molars nearly flattened. It so happened I lied awake. Legions within wear their names like diadems. The muse found me on the psych ward floor. Press record, voice didn't match appearance, glimpses of Leviathan in each adherence. The finals played in the day room. The deluge arrived before when the sun hits and flume, refused to pursue senses beyond what pleasure demanded, disbanded allegorical caves beyond measure, got high in lemons. Scaffolds clung to tall buildings, couldn't quell the sense of innocence amid cathedral bells. Thought of Ovid on the coast of Thomas. What would he posit about our current spell? I sat on the shore until you implored me to come to you, glimpsed cypresses behind your irises, breaking waves, mirror pillars, sudden arcs festooned. Yep, that's the first one. Let me see. Thank you guys. Thank you. Uh, this one was published in Bruiser magazine recently, and it's called Candles. It's a micro fiction. The ferine masses beneath your skin endured spring's captivity just to be situated on a North Carolina highway in slanted rain. When you left the convent, the abbess you'd studied with hoped your vanity would snap under the weight of societal and internal pressures. You soon absconded to the States. Phenomenal activity came and went, yet the feeling behind your eyes persisted like a fresh laceration. Your passport photo was a snapshot of contrasts and lost inhibitions. The rhythms of the songs being played in your vehicle lurched like the damp bodies of new lovers. You noted that, unlike in northern states, commuters drifted ever so slightly away from those exposed to the elements. You knocked on the wooden door and descended several flights of stairs. The guitarist was tall and gossamer. The drum kit was placed behind center stage. The bassist wore a steady diet of nothing era Fugazi shirt. His pecan skin morphed under firelight like octopus chromatophores. A circle pit soon materialized. Endorphins inundated your nervous system like a flooded ravine. You splashed icy water on your face in the deserted restroom and noticed one of your nails had broken. You realized death was not an arbitrary feature of space and time, but the penultimate stage toward liberation. That's the end of that one. Let me see. I got two more. I got some new shit too, so I'm going to end it with the new shit. All right. This one was published in Resurrection magazine. It's called The Transformation of David. The weeks spent abandoning your body were like constant striking of flint that suddenly ignited fire. You observed your reflection in the mirror. Each contradiction ran into another until you heard a knock at the door. You were only present in your shining armor, which flared with heavy, enveloping wings, but their protection caused confinement, like an alpha sequestered from the wolf pack. Your body's a cage that, while made of flesh, abbreviates itself like an iguana dropping its tail. As a result, you sit in your apartment while reading and eating, as much as you are able, knowing the second shoe will fall. David was discharged from the psych ward days ago, and no one got word from him. When he was inside, you communicated by the phone installed for patients. His conversational tone put you at ease, but when he talked about his vision, you felt frisson like zephyrs caressed your face and upper body. His kin had abandoned him when he got in trouble this time. However, you knew his nature and how ordinarily coarse-spirited folks were eagerly won over by his humbleness. You opened the door, and his usual tan was absent along with his smile. He stood in the hallway, eyes downcast, wearing a stained t-shirt from one of his favorite bands. You opened your arms and stepped forward. There was too much to say that would have broken. Let me start over. There was too much to say that would have broken the silence. That's the end of that one. All right, now I got some new shit for you. This is a poem. It's short, but it's, I think, pretty strong. I like it a lot. It's titled Untitled Apothecary. The cliffs will return with the gifts of our anatomy. Spiraling clarity hardly responded to the phenomena. My sins carry me for a time. Our bodies intertwine, living shrine. I cannot define all that happened to me, for the pain's no longer mine. Thank you, Tom. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
It's an honor right back to have you, JL. Thank you so much for being here. That is JL Moultrie, who you could hear the heart crane from the bio. JL, you're a Detroiter at heart, but like I grew up in Boston and I just heard John Wieners, I heard Stephen Jonas, I heard all this amazing stuff in your work, and that was just so gorgeous. My sins will carry me for a time. Yeah, my sins carry me for a time. That was JL Moultrie, who you can find on Twitter at JLMOULTRIE. Keep an ear to the ground for when JL's new shit finds a home, and when JL drops a first book, I think we'll all be lined up to just, yeah, I don't know, take that shit all the way off the shelves and put it into my shelves. But yeah, what a beautiful, beautiful way to get us to the end of the first half of our reading. Really appreciate the beautiful work Donna and JL y'all shared, and I'm really, really excited to keep the momentum rolling by introducing Maya Weeks. Maya Weeks is a poet and geographer. She works on oceans, pollution, gender, and wool production from materialist, feminist, and environmental justice perspectives. Recent poetry has been published in Rabbit, Tarpaulin Sky Magazine, and Guest. She lives and works on YTT, Northern Chumash, and Salinan land. And Maya, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to hear what you're going to read.
Thanks so much for having me, Tom, and happy birthday, Nightlight. And Donna and JL, thank you so much. I'm sailing on the seas of your languages. And Thomas, so looking forward to hearing you read too. Okay, I'm going to start by reading some old stuff. And then at the end, I will. I'm buoyed by the energy of the Zoom room, and I'm going to read a couple new pieces of new shit. But I'll start with some old stuff about trash. If remembering there having been nature, motivation, behavior, development, and experience, we might get looked at. Considering the basic unit of society, creating bays out of valleys and islands out of mountaintops, nobility, revolution, destiny, love, war, a blade of tundra, a vortex of light. As far as having accepted the complicated reasons for being alive goes, a band of lavender, fluid, bonded, thickening nectar, opportunity to melt not just sand and diatoms, but also a variety of brightly colored particles, locusts, clippers, a million pretty colors. You have learned to identify with being other, to depend on movement as survival mechanism. Axe and adze, corrugated sheet gold, lunule, megaliths, middens, the bones of deep water fish, courage, love, exorcism, psychic powers, mussels, hermit crabs, snails, rockfish, jellies. I was thinking eclipse, the way our bodies were together, turning what was a worker bee into a queen, critical void, a constant procession of cargo ships crossing the oceans of the world, vortex of extinction, the world not so much a noun as an adjective. You who would be willing to turn the whole universe into a physics experiment, weather, comeback, divine retribution. Am I going to burn myself if I lean up against it? Sunflowers planted to try and remove radiation, and us the trash for the black hole. Thunder splits us up. If, remembering there having been, we might get looked at. Cascade, Wonderland Highway, Delta, Pleasure, Future, Light Cone, Aurora Borealis forecast, misplaced nocturnal animal wants a more nuanced garden, sensitive little beast, held up, dug quota, discourse around catastrophe. Ha, ha, heavy weather. It's been so muggy. Now the sun trying to shine through the high sky, gray, philosophizing around is heavy, mending on a becoming kick right now. A bright flash and a shaking boom. What do you mean? What do you mean? Which one? I made that statement, or that statement made me. Much more extended, direct, individual, family, and also larger. It's about what you say and don't say, people you keep paths crossing with. Kantaral, rucola, morot, lök, råost, läker är all compact geopolitics. But what do you do? But what if the bridge is blown up? Anytime we see rotation in a thunderstorm, you're not shifting the place around, you're not changing the setting. Radioactive sincerity, temperate straits, intertidal ecology, a different way of relating to substance. It's a bunch of dots connected together. It doesn't necessarily make a picture. You will get the communications that you need, and they will come from strangers. Orange roughy, coral, trout, eastern gemfish, Exmouth Gulf tiger prawns, plastic pellets that concentrate toxins, containers that go underwater at designated depths by design of their weight, oneirotic, pelagic, the sand dollar, not quite dead yet, apocalypse dipstick, polyethylene toothpaste. Typically, lesions appear in the ectoderm, followed by decay of tissue surrounding the lesions, which leads to eventual fragmentation. Ordinary attributes of unhealthy stars. What does it mean to be perpendicular? How much plastic is accumulating? How is it distributed? And how is it affecting anglerfish, cookie cutter shark, flashlight fish, gulper eel, lanternfish, marine hatchet fish, midshipman fish, pinecone fish, viper fish, black dragonfish, many cnidarians, sea pens, coral, Aquaria victoria, certain ctenophores, for instance, comb jellies, certain echinoderms like Ophiurida, certain crustaceans, ostracods, copepods, krill, two species of ctenogaths, certain mollusks, certain clams, bivalves, nudibranchs, sea slugs, cephalopods, octopuses like Bolitidinae, vampire squid, many-toothed, a colossal squid, mastigotoothed, sparkling enope squid, algae down, seagrass up, fewer than 3,000 southern sea otters left in the wild, land clearance, investment, bankruptcy, abandonment, rainfall higher near the coast than inland, soft pants, soft water, pollution and cleanup, towns, virtuous, spilled oil continuing to percolate through the porous soil, and Kuwait's freshwater aquifers, polystyrene and radiation, whatever the opposite of humidity is, always a triangle, a steady and intractable attraction, vortex of light, enough global weight. Since we didn't have accurate information about radiation, we had no idea how to make the right decision about what to do. We live in the tunnel at the end of the light. The other thing about the deep sea is you can bring things up, but they just won't look like themselves. So what if a person has fallen out of orbit? There are places we can go with our bodies in the dark. Forth come the brook, the water, the animal wishing well, all birds in palms, properly nested, Arctic blasts, schists and gneiss, seismic airgun blasting, estuaries, reefs, mesopelagic, read midwater fishes, Dungeness crab task force, glaucous gulls, guillemots, bearded seals, narwhals, school sharks, southern bluefin tuna, tiger flathead, spotted handfish, anchovies, sardines, brackish air, granite beach, fur loss, open sores, beta burns, contaminated plankton, the 80% of radioactivity from reactors at Fukushima discharged into the Pacific Ocean, optic chiasma, flock, or flight, contemporary shipwreck, continuous horror, can't give any thought to the future, logic on board a freight ship, what sonar does to whales, plastics bags, buoys, glass and plastic bottles, rope, shoes, light bulbs, whiskey bottles, boxes inside boxes, toolkits, primordial gravitational waves, primordial forest, engines as big as houses, auroras on other planets, tiny sounds, the whole electricity line coming from the forest, the sound a suffocating heart makes, holding on to face for safekeeping, not enough fungi to break down all the styrenes. Plastic debris has been documented in all marine environments, accumulation and non-accumulation zones, accumulation even in non-accumulation zones. Ekman transports all available plastic data, breaking down in the wash and flowing into public waterways. Telling the truth should not have to destroy you, having eschewed dreams for safer bets only to discover. That's the end of that one. Um, and now I'm going to read a poem called State of War. And this is the new shit. Tractors and barracks are lined up on the bluffs above the Pacific Ocean, and then the president shuts down the I-5. There are no pharmacies, but there's a foal I can see from the side of the road, two cattle cuddling in the mud. I ask myself, what do I need to do to be a witch today? Swimming with the sea lettuce, easing into a world. I always forget my gender gets perceived before I do. I'm so tired of living in rich people's excesses. The surge, wraparound energy, our outer reef, our inner reef. A freight car has 8 wheels, and they still can't find a woman who's theorizing political economy. And this is gonna be my last one. It's called Transaction versus Grace. It is also some new shit. Thank you for the applause. This is very confidence building for me because I have no perspective on these poems. I kind of just like came up out of the hole with them and they feel to something, but they exist, so whatever. Transaction versus Grace. I don't know why it surprised me that when he asked me out, he was establishing a property relation. The ants in the bathtub come almost as a relief. Rosemary in the dusk, my butt heating up the earth beneath me. I thought I heard people traipsing over the hill, but it was deer. True intergenerational friendship. I think the thing that would improve my quality of life the most right now would be organized communal kitchens. I want an alternate economy in which I give none of my money to white men. Lupin covering a hillside that burned a few years back. Big oak leaves and tiny miner's lettuce. Between the highway off-ramp and the chevron, they're installing monarch habitat. I am once again thinking about the ecological function of love, and the more I open the window, the louder the crickets get. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Wow, taking off the top of the head is like, that was the Dickinsonian criterion. But if you like melt someone's face, that also counts. That was Maya Weeks, who just absolutely, a reminder of when ecological poetry can itself be an ecology. That was astonishing, Maya. Thank you for those poems. And again, Maya Weeks, you can find on Twitter and X at Maya M Weeks, MAYAMWEEKS, on Blue Sky at mayaweeks.bsky.social, and on Instagram at Seaweed Report. Maya also has a personal site at mayaweeks.com. Keep up with the beautiful work that Maya is publishing. That new shit will find a beautiful home. I am excited for it to be in the world. Yeah, wow. Yeah, Maya Slade, JL says in the chat, and I agree. Wow. Riding a high, 3 readers in. It's always a bit bittersweet to get to our last reader of a nightlight. Even 2 years on, I have not gotten used to the little like, it's kind of sad. But this is a really exceptional reader who I'm excited to have closing us out tonight. Really, really delighted and privileged and honored to be welcoming Thomas Kneeland to Nightlight. Thomas, thank you so much for being here. Thomas's bio is astonishing. I'm going to read it. Thomas Kneeland is an award-winning author, writer, speaker, thinker, educator, scholar, and poet whose creative and academic research explores ancestry, ecological memory, and the effects of intergenerational trauma in Black, Afro-Latina, and Afro-Indigenous communities. He is deeply committed to making space for voices of those who've been historically marginalized by teaching creative writing and poetics in the Indianapolis community and beyond. Kneeland has received grants and fellowships from the Central Indiana Community Foundation, CICF, as well as the IU Indianapolis Arts and Humanities Institute, IAHI. He was a recipient of the 2024 CICF Artist Ambassador Travel Grant. It was awarded a 2024 Speculative Play and Just Futurities Fellowship from IAHI. Recently named a 2025 Emerging Scholar by Diverse Issues in Higher Education, Kneeland served as a writing faculty member for the Leda Scholars Aspects of Leadership Summer Institute at Princeton University before joining the Department of Humanities at Anderson University as an assistant professor of English. Included in the vast collection of texts at the Library of Congress, not too far from me, is his chapbook We Be Walkin' Blackly in the Deep. His book poems have appeared or are forthcoming in critically acclaimed journals across the U.S. and abroad, including Prairie Schooner, Obsidian Art, Literature and Arts in the African Diaspora, the Rumpus Modern Language Studies Journal, and elsewhere. And he is here right now. Thomas, such an honor to have you on. Thank you for closing us out. You're awesome, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to read.
Thank you. And happy 2 years. Like, that's super exciting. I keep forgetting how long those bios are. Um, I'm excited to read. Everyone's been amazing. And see, my AirPods want to go out as soon as I get ready to read. See, in my world, we say the enemy is working, but that just means I didn't charge them well enough. So, hey, you guys hear me? Okay. I didn't think we would have to do this like in 2025, but here we are. Other people can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you kind of, sort of. Oh, I think I lost you though, Thomas. I don't know if you can hear us.
Can you guys hear me now? Bet. Okay,
Sorry
there we
about
go.
that. Thank you.
All right, we're all good. It's 2025. We should not be doing this. All right. Um, so I'm going to start with a quote from Nicholas Guillen, a Cuban poet who inspires a lot of the work that I do, unpacking my own Afro-Cuban, Nigerian, indigenous identity. He says, "Do you already know my navigable blood, my geography full of dark mountains of deep and bitter valleys?" So I'm going to read a few poems for you today. I consider all of this new shit because some of it is going to be published in journals here soon. And at large, none of these collections that I'm working on have homes yet. So looking for homes for them, a memoir in verse specifically, and a poetry collection. Um, and so you're going to hear some prose poems, you're going to hear some, regular, lyric poems and so on. So we start with Confession. Let the meditations of my mouth reduce to salt, season saliva on tides of my tongue, for waves of prayer to render me worthy, though stained, of the sacrifice I must make, unrepentantly on this altar, to draw from earth water, trapped in lungs of a star, assigned to my first stolen breath of moonrise and hurricane, whose winds whisper in comparison to prayers I wail from deep holes in my bones. To be a well, to be made well. That's that one. All right. This next poem is called Innocent Storm. This one is coming out in Hayden's Fairy Review here soon. Really excited about that. Every storm is beautiful in the beginning. Gray clouds blanket the sky, cool down concrete slabs in our backyard where the pool used to be. Stir up the wind for when the showers come, wash the pollen out my eyes. Grandma say don't swing too high because the soil be too soft to anchor the swing set to the earth, so I swing low and sweet, waiting anxiously for the sweet scent of spring rain to cross my breath, counting before the storm. 9,998, 9,999, 10,000, 10,001. She watches from the tempered glass window in the kitchen, looking for God out in the garden, or maybe her mother, whose spirit lives in the fig tree. Leaves gently push me forward as I swing back and forth, alone in my humanity, out with the rambling clouds. I can never make it to 100,000. Mouth dry from all the counting, my eyes watch the wind turn to water. My tongue outstretched like petals on a lily, only needing a few drops to soften my speech for the stories I tell after walking back inside. Grandma in the kitchen, making dinner with hands that haven't always been hers. That's that one. I've got some experimental things that aren't done yet. So I'm carrying a form, or adopting, stealing, the whole poet thing. Um, Adopting a form from Joshua Bennett's, either Ode or the Sobbing School. It's in one of the, I think it's the Sobbing School, where he has like an abstract poem. Like it's like in the form of like an abstract with keywords and stuff. So I'm like working through that. So this is like new experimental shit. New experimental shit. Um, so that's the All right, this one is you have to satisfy at least one of these 12 categories. Theorizing America's unwarranted insertion into the Cuban War of Independence. Keywords: independence, imperialism, something for nothing, hegemony, stratification, individualism, Cubanidad. Abstract. America's pastime was never baseball. Ask your father how much fun he had running home before the White Hoods could strike him out. That's that one. I'm not a reading whole series on Zoom. All right, this next poem is called Jazz Blue Anthem. One of the titular poems of my memoir in verse called Jazz Blue and Tangerine. Soil is a matriarch, a country without borders, a coat for my bones, a beginning and an ending. That's that one. All right, so this is a prose poem, one of the entries from Jazz Blue and Tangerine. This one is called Maritime. There are some Spanish translations, but I've translated back to English because I'm not too confident with the way that I pronounce Spanish words. So uh, here's this one, Maritime. The journey of life requires you to sacrifice something for the answers you seek. Senor Roberto once told me I'd have to give up something if I wanted to unlock the mystery of myself. When I first arrived in Key West, I stumbled upon his cigar shop, and there he was. Darker than tobacco leaves, he flattened with his chaveta, a dark-skinned Cuban. I imagined that no one in or from Cuba would be able to show me my reflection. Welcome. There were barrels everywhere and galeras where his employees would work, smooth tobacco leaves, and roll them into perfect cigars. 3 portraits hung proudly above the bar, one of Martí, Maceo, and Gomez. You stay for the lector, no? It's not like I could say no to his offer. There was so much magic in the space, so much history, and I wanted to experience it all. After a while, the lector stood on the platform near the large storefront window. My dear Cuban brothers and sisters, I will read to you the last letter written by our beloved Jose Marti. May he continue to rest eternally, freed from the injustice of this world. As I flattened and smoothed leaves, every word hit me like the promise of a new world. I have lived in the monster, and I know its entrails. My sling is David's. Marti knew the Bible, the story of David and Goliath that I learned as a boy in my grandfather's Southern church, wedged between cotton fields. There are affections of such delicate honesty. Gracias. The lector stepped down from the platform as if interrupted by a news story, but it appeared that the last sentence Marti wrote was never completed because he died in battle the next day. So now what do we do? Will the letter just remain unfinished? Roberto looked at me, shook his head, and said, until someone chooses to finish, that's it. Stunned, I gathered my bags to head out the door. Wait, son, where are you going? I pointed towards the shore, south, toward Cuba. Vamos, follow me. We talked along the cobblestone path about my plans to visit Cuba and my great-great-grandmother. I followed him to the shore where his home rested nearby. Behind his home, he stored a large boat with living quarters inside. My gift to you. You search for something, but you don't find it here. But the journey requires you to sacrifice something for the answers you seek. The whole of this boat will only take me so far. Everything in its wake trails behind like a caravan and waits for my next move. In the distance, Roberto finally turns away after one last wave, his instructions chanting in my veins like a spell. Burn the ship when you reach the shore. That's that one. This next one, I took it upon myself to try to finish the letter that Jose Marti wrote, and so this poem is called "There Are Affections of Such Delicate Honesty," after Jose Marti. There are affections of such delicate honesty, such as one's love for his mother or for his mother country, that a man a little lesser than an angel would trade his breath for red settling dust that stains our history far more than bloodshed. For if a soldier's dried blood vanished with the wind and dust, would not resolve be left behind? Would not the spirit of justice envelop us from west to east? Our America has had its portion of Yankee Spaniard stew, and we are filled to the brim with its potatoes and beef. Our skin sweats broth on the eve of war. 7,000 times have we been crucified by a forceful nation who says she wants to love our mother, but assumes we are a nation in need of saving. We have never needed saving, for we have always made something from nothing. Our darkness has given more light than the sour promise of white imperialism. Look at this land, how its lush flesh gives birth to the cane stalk. Bite the stalk and extract the sweet nectar and tell me how liberating it is to partake in the consumption of a gift that took years to obtain. And this is why we fight and die. That's that one. All right. Okay. So if you watched the National Book Award awards yesterday, Patricia Smith was insane. And so the her speech was the poem, right? The poem was the speech. And this poem that I'm about to read, as I was reading through it, again, reminds me a little bit of that experience. Not entirely, but just a little bit. Um, the poem is called Ain't That Much of Me in You. Starts with a quote by Lucille Clifton. It says, "You can only love something you understand wholly, even oneself." Today, when I returned your call, you threw those words, not at the man you taught me to be, but at the feet of a little boy, fresh off a 24-hour highway with Grandpa, Southern air escorting him by the arm to your front door in 1996, just a couple decades after it was okay to sleep all night with the screen door unlocked. And all I could do was stare at stars you smoked from the sky with whiplash words. And he stared at them, while the blood running warm in his veins started to boil over and his innocent four-eyed face grew a full beard, wild as the flames surging through his bones. I stroked the wild of my beard, hoping to understand why someone would tell their only grandson that there isn't enough blood in his body to claim the name he's carried his whole life, when he is when he is the only one left to bear the image. What do you call a man whose name is stripped away like black oil paint in a basin of turpentine? Might as well call him Obsidian. All right. I think do I have time for a couple more? Are we good? Okay. All right. So, the poems from my memoir in verse, so I'm writing a memoir in verse about memories that never happened, but I feel things in my body, ancestrally, and I'm trying to make sense of them. And so this is a whole memoir about memories that are being fabricated, right? But Saidiya Hartman talks a lot about critical fabulation and like this moment between the historical and the fictive. And so I am attempting in this memoir in verse to critically fabulate what I believe to be experiences of my great great grandparents who were Afro-Cuban and that I've never met, but only have their names. So This poem is called Prophecy, and it's a prose block. I love prose block poems. For those of you who love them, all right. The air in my great great grandmother's house is a country without borders. Familiar. Even the smell of clay is a faint memory on the shore of my tongue. The ceiling fan spins with attitude, and my toes wiggle in rhythm with the pull chain as I yawn sleep away. The room glows coral as the sun spills over the horizon, melting away last night's stars. I leave the galaxy of a bedroom and join her in the kitchen. Fina is sweeping and swaying with Mongo Santa Maria before she makes breakfast. Tostones, camarón y huevos con arroz y frijoles. Mi vida, we need to go to the market. I've run out of bananas. When I return to the room to get dressed, there's an outfit laid out on the bed, a teal and white striped t-shirt, faded red Bermuda shorts, and white sneakers garnished with a teal star. My God, you are the spitting image of him, your great great grandfather. She smiles deeply but painfully for my great great grandfather Henry. When we get to the market, she pulls out her coin purse and hands me 72 Cuban pesos. I walk up to Senora Alvarez, ask for a bunch of plantains, and hand her the money. On the walk back home, there's an alley that leads out to the shore. I stop and stare for a short while. With a faint smile, Fina walks on toward her jazz blue and tangerine house. At the shoreline, I sit for a while, sink my feet into the wet reddish brown sand and watch the ocean wash away my worry. 10 o'clock sun shimmers with every ebb and flow, but just beyond the foam, a dark glimmer in the water calls me forward. I reach down and pick up a stone, barely dulled by the tide. I run my fingers along one of the edges until I realize I'm bleeding. A drop of blood plummets into the ocean water, and then a whisper. I wash the remaining blood away into the ocean, shove the stone into my pocket, and when I stand up, I'm looking out the window of my room towards the shore at Fina's house. This is no dream, and yet my body is transported back to the room I woke up in. The stone rests on the nightstand underneath the light of the warm lamp. In the kitchen, Fina slices plantains, thumb and paring knife in perfect unison. Do you need help in the kitchen? She turns around and faintly smiles at me again. Did you find what you were looking for? I smile softly. No, not yet. That's that one. Um, do I still have time? Am I still on time or okay? How much time do I have left?
Whatever the poems tell you.
Okay, because I got a sexy poem that I got to get to. So, um, nobody's read a sexy poem tonight, so I'm gonna read one. Um, all right. Before I get there, though, I've got a couple other things I need to do. This poem is called Blood Memory for Monica Joe, who's a culture bearer at the Idle George Museum in Indianapolis. I have fed the sky all the stars behind my eyes, watered soil in my backyard, plucked up dandelions just to see them return tenfold, planted my hands, hoping my fingers would gently soak up memories left behind by foot and knee for the earth to keep until my blood could muster courage to speak. This blood river wants me to know something. Josephine would have told me I am not a monolith, some one-dimensional being destined only for death, but a network of tributaries flowing into a larger body of water whose currents have no choice but to deliver me to a tangerine house and jazz blue door. Inside, there's a letter folded in half and yellowed from stale air. We are all learning who we are while teaching others to love who we will become. This blood river wants me to know something. Turmeric yellow was her favorite color. She wore a sunflower in her hair, and its earthy middle was more valuable than the emerald she wore on her earlobes. When I turn to look in the mirror, all I hear is the ocean singing. This blood river wants you to know something. And that is a bop poem, after Alpha Michael Weaver. Um, Tomas Sanchez is a Cuban painter. Love his work. It's beautiful. He has one titled Del Bosque a la Laguna. And it's a portrait of a very serene, just escape surrounded by a canopy of trees, and then there's a body, like a lake, a body of water or something, and there's land, right? And so here's this poem about reconcentration. Uh, Reconcentration must have been hard to attain. Every minute, an hour of sweltering, bronze flesh decrepit as the houses where you lived. You weren't just homeless, roofless, too. No one to cover your bruised heels, no coat for your bones. Acid build up on ribs curved inward, your tongue retched at the child they shot dead in the street. That night you fled, waded water without splash or gurgle, held breath long enough to hitch a ride on the hull, and when the sun rose, you found yourself noiseless, staring up at a canopy, the grove beside calm waters, a still life paradise, sharing breath with trees that have grown eager to find each other in the sky. This poem is called Soul Wound. I'm just going to power through these short ones, get into some love stuff here. The first line of my love poem would be your breath, resting on an ice cube. Kiss my wounds the way you would a dream too loosely clung to at 4 o'clock in the morning, weightless and without borders. Like the wind when it swept your nose on the first day of spring, ready for blooming lilies, because everyone knows Earth heals herself after the first thunderstorm of the year. Though I'm not asking you to heal me, I just want you to touch me where it hurts. And here we have sexy poem, Kairos. My partner's here today. I ain't gonna put her on blast though. Uh, it's a love poem. And none of my students attended, although I invited them. So I feel like I can read it. So here we go. Y'all ready? It gets kind of graphic. We fell in love just as the world had begun to fall apart. On the first night, we laid in the quiet spaces between each other's ribs, brought warm lips to soft agreement. Breath had already melted your mouth to mine when Alex Isley filled the living room with warm vanilla and almond cookies. First, my tongue swirling in your mouth, searching for sweet honey inside. Softly biting your lips, sweet taffy between my teeth. The vinyl cracked beneath the needle like an autumn fire in a red clay fireplace. And in the blaze of a smooth, violet moonlight that emanated from the television, we danced. We swayed. We brought time to a halt as my hands searched her shoreline skin for the next time you'd come my way. The first time we made love, your skin and mine had already made the decision to melt into each other long before we found the embers glowing from our eyes. So when I ate you for the first time, she took it personal, throbbed on the tip of my tongue, breathed deep and slow for the next wave of slow, warm kisses to her center, and I laid there, face deep in your flower, massaging petals with every ounce of love that I have for you. And she gave me her nectar from deep within her well, honey dripping into my mouth, a gentle swallow, one after the other, until you pull my face to yours and bring my pelvis to you, melting the diamond mine between your thighs until all that's left is warm honey. That's that one. And then I got one last one, and then that's it. I promise. All right. This poem is called Lot. And we're going to come back around to this whole idea of being a well and then closing out. Thank you for listening. I hope I did not go over 15 minutes. If I did, please ask me to come back again. I'll behave. Um, Lot. I bent the blade on Grandpa's lawnmower. I missed the hidden stump of a young tree protruding from the empty lot. Before it was an empty lot, there was a house. And in that house, there were neighbors who would lend me sugar and ketchup from a glass bottle because that's what we did when we ran out of something. The community lifted us up and we them. Gave love to our branches to bear fruit worth snapping off the vine, to eat right then because we knew God walked among our gardens looking for us, naked and cloaked in the skin of golden plums and fig leaves. And when we'd smell the rain coming, I'd go out to the lonely stump, young and alone, something we both shared, stand beside him with my pail, look up, eyes wide as tree rings, and wait to be filled up again. Thank you.
Thomas, thank you so much for that beautiful run. That was astonishing. The cosmology, the history, Sadia Hartman, Afa Michael Weaver, whose name I was so happy to hear. I used to go to the Grolier in Cambridge all the time, and I've heard Afa read, and just like, what a beautiful thing. That was an astonishing way to end this evening's reading. That was Thomas Kneeland, who you can find on Twitter at Thomas Kneeland, ThomasKneeland, on Blue Sky at thomasneeland.bsky.social. And again, Thomas has some beautiful new shit that you just heard. Thomas's poetry manuscript Cienfuegos, which explores identity reclamation and Afro-Cuban ancestry, is actively seeking a home. Also, Thomas has a manuscript in progress, a memoir in verse, also focusing on that reimagined Afro-Cuban ancestry that we heard excerpts from, that is also seeking literary representation. So if you are a press and or you know somebody, and please place these beautiful, beautiful works and give them the bright future that they already have. But we're gonna actualize it and then bring Thomas back for more readings for 10 years, Nightlight, 50 years. I don't know. Figure it out. We're working on historical timelines now. But we have reached, sadly but truly, but really the end of tonight's reading. This was an astonishing night. Thank you so much, Donna, Maya, JL, Thomas. This was a beautiful night of poetry. Exactly what my heart needed. I've been like sniffling and gross all day, and this was, you can hear it. I'm better now. This has cured me in a really big way. I hope that you might consider joining us for our next reading. It'll be on December 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you if you're listening in the Zoom chat with us now. If you're on YouTube watching us, thank you for doing that from the future. As always, I end Nightlight every time with a poem. So I have a couple of books by a poet I really love. I don't know if folks have read this poet much, but this is Nyla Northsun's book, Love at Gunpoint, and then this book, A Snake in Her Mouth. I really love Nyla Northsun, and I had no idea what I was going to read of hers, but somebody mentioned that I've got the Christmas tree behind me. So here we go. I'm going to read a poem by Nyla Northson, and it's called Home Again. My own bed, my own couch, and especially my dear, sweet, patient computer. Shit. Now, why won't it work? New downloads, telephone company bad connection, and my tomatoes waited for me, bright red and heavy. And all my half-done projects stayed that way for me, knowing my truck-weary body was anxious to accomplish something. Maybe I'll even finish one before I start another. But Xmas is around the corner. Oh, I'm so all over the place, happy to be home.